Manchester United face Young Boys in the Champions League in a massive game. The performance against Crystal Palace was very poor. Adam McKola, what needs to change?
That's
a big one.
Bit of a can of worms, isn't it? A lot of things need to change at Manchester United, but more... Look, the manager's not going to change. I know a lot of people will say the manager's not going to change. The club have already proved inept. They've already proved that they're not going to pull the trigger. Now, I said in my review after the game the other day, what other big club would have stood by in a manager's third season and allowed this to happen? We're in November, close to December, with negative goal difference. We're off in the league. We're out of the League Cup. We're in the Champions League, but that's still not confirmed. That's still not confirmed. So you look at that, and I almost think the club are just waiting to maybe see what happens with the Champions League, or maybe like we saw with David Moyes and Van Gaal, waiting until the Champions League is impossible in terms of the league position to then pull the trigger. So with that being said, what needs to change if everybody at the club is going to stay? Well, we need to start, like I've said before, it's almost like we're in a loop. We're in a constant cycle of repeating ourselves. The players put the same messages out after games. The manager goes through the same pattern of ripping on his players, ripping on the board, everyone else to blame but himself. And the fans are almost, is it the players? Is it the manager? It's the board. Ultimately, the manager has to take some responsibility. And what I want to see from my manager is, I want to see you trying something different. Every week we revert to the same tactics, the same style. He mentioned that the players seem to have no heart. Nor does Mourinho when I look at him. And maybe, like I've said before, what we're seeing is a mirror image of our manager on the pitch. So maybe he needs to do something different on the training pitch in his approach to the team, because it's already clear that his current approach isn't working, because we're not getting the results. He can't blame the players lacking heart and lacking passion. He can't blame Ed Woodward not buying a centre-half for the results and the performances that we have seen. Yes, if we lost against Juventus and we lost against, Chelsea and the other big teams that we played, but we beat everybody else and we were looking poor at the back, we could say, oh yeah, look, that decision not to buy a centre-half was a big one. But that's not all we're missing at the moment. It looks like we're missing everything. A manager, all the players need to go. And our team is pretty good. I know we've areas we need to improve on, but our team is pretty good. No one can pull the wool over my eyes and tell me a team that consists of Alexis Sanchez, Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, Romelu Lukaku, Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, Ander Herrera, Fred, Pogba, is this poor?
Scott, what needs to be done? Do we need to see the introduction of Andres Pereira, maybe Fred in midfield like we saw against Leicester City in the opening game? It looked good in possession. Is that something that we want to see again?
Well, just going back to what Adam was saying about he doesn't know what other club would do this. Well, just check Sir Alex's third season. We get exactly the same there.
That was the 80s. And Sir Alex Ferguson had a different club. This wasn't the Manchester United that we see now.
Well, obviously, but it's the same circumstances. He still had the same amount of financial backing.
But I think that's the big thing. Is that the same right now? Are we back in the 80s? Is that what you're saying, Scott?
I'm sorry, you did. Because if you look at like what Sir Alex Ferguson spent on players back in them days, I mean, Maradona was $3.5 million and he was the world record.
But when Sir Alex Ferguson took over that team, he had a lot of players that he needed to potentially get rid of. He had a culture that he needed to get rid of in football. Jose Mourinho's taken over a team that has many young players, many very good young players, a lot of players that should be playing better football than they are now. That's no excuse for, we can't say, like, this is what I mean, like,
but
I'm going to ask everybody.
Let's get back to the levels, Matt. That's what we're comparing, that's what the problem, right?
Let me ask you a question. Defend Jose Mourinho without mentioning money, the media, Manchester City or Liverpool. Not one of you can do it.
But I think that's the big thing that we're talking about. It's the levels that that's coming from Mourinho, that's coming from the players. And I think that's the thing that, how do we improve on that? That was the question I sent to Scott in terms of Man United right now.
Yeah, but it's individual mistakes. I mean, again, just look at the control of Lukaku the other night. I mean, it was atrocious. Chris Smalling's defending, it's atrocious. I mean, can we really blame him for that? I mean, some of these shocking performances for individual performances have been poor. Yet of late we were gelling as a team. But I mean, Jose Mourinho doesn't bring it on himself really well. Like I say, when you bring off Paul Pogba, you know, as bad as he's playing, he can do that one chance. So there are parts I agree with, but it's just this notion that, I mean, my issue with Jose Mourinho is who else is out there, really, that would come in and somehow make Chris Smalling a better defender, who would make Matic a better central, defensive midfielder. I just think he bought poorly. When he brought in Matic, he thought he was going to get the play that he had. When we bought Lukaku, started off amazing, but this year, God, he's doubled in size.
Well, let's move on to Lukaku a few. Man United's number 9 last season scored so many goals, but he's not scored since September. I think, Scott, how does he get out of this bad patch of form? Is it dieting? Is it changing his game? Is it being more like the target man that sort of Jose Mourinho wants?
It's just, like I say, I mean, what went was, last season was a superb player. I mean, I thought he would lead Belgium to the World Cup. He was awesome. Obviously, there was a few little issues with his touches and things like that, but his general play was brilliant. But this year, it's like Emil Heskey's turned up. It's like he's come, just woeful. Like I say, some of the touches that he's had, I mean, he's a big guy. He needs to obviously sort something, in terms of his weight, but his touch was just terrible at the moment, and he's got no confidence. So,
you see, against Crystal Palace, I thought there was moments where he brought the ball down and included someone like Jess Lingard need him. Mac, do you think even playing maybe a front two or someone like Sanchez off Lukaku could help the big Belgium? Because we all know that there's a player there. We all know that from last season, some of the goals he scored for United, some of the goals that he scored in the Premier League. The guy's already scored more Premier League goals than Didier Drogba. There is talent there. How do you get the most out of that? Is it Sanchez and Lukaku up top?
It's a weird one. I can't mention his weight because you can't say, is the manager wanting that of him? Because we don't see behind the closed doors. So I can't blame the manager for saying, he's made him bulk up to be a bigger striker. And I can't talk about that because I don't know. But from what I see on the pitch, I agree he looks like he's got no confidence. But like against Crystal Palace, he started off well. He did things that he hadn't done in the past, like he went up for a header, which I thought, he hasn't done that recently. Like, that's good to see. He won it. He brought a few things down. He was bringing his players in. But then once the 30-minute mark passed, he just reverted back to his old self. His touch wasn't there, but we know his touch isn't there. I don't think the football we play helps him. I think when you look at everybody around him, they all want to play football. Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, Anthony Martial. They want to pass, they want to move, Alexis Sanchez. And I think when they look at Romelu Lukaku, they don't want to give it to him sometimes. And then when they do, the move will break down. And it's almost like you see him getting frustrated. We're not creating many chances for him. But then he's not making things easier for himself. Like I said, we look better with Sanchez in the team because he did the simple things better. He was on the centre-half shoulder. He was trying to make runs. Yes, he was dropping deep, but then he was pulling back out again. And we don't see those things from Romelu Lukaku. We don't see a striker that is actively looking to score goals. We see a striker that's actively looking to not make mistakes. And he looks scared.
Well, I think that's a big thing. It's both, Matt.
He don't make runs across the box. He don't run across defenders. He don't simple things. When you play football, and I've never been a striker, but when you play up front, run across your defender. Make moves, use the flank sometimes, run in between your fullback and your centre half, make them turn, get them on their shoulders. And Sakho had the easiest game of his life. And I'm sure he was carrying a knock. And it's like, you make things easy for the defender. Like, you're not getting into areas and then being unlucky. He missed a good header. But even then it was almost like he's trying to be perfect with his placement. And he misses a little bit of power off his shot, and I feel sorry for him. He's not a bad player. Don't become a bad player over.
That's the thing. It's like it's not criticism of him. You feel sorry for him, but I mean the reality is, Jose Mourinho has always played with a number 9 who held the ball up, like Drogba, like I said, Benzema, Ibrahimovic. He's always had that player who held the ball up and brought others into play. Last year, there was nothing wrong with the way we played. Lukaku scored how many goals? 29 or something like that.
27.
So what's different this season? You can see his touch, but you say like he can't break up his weight. I mean, clearly the guy is struggling, whether he needs to change his fitness, but it's affecting his game, and anyone can see that, really.
To be fair, though, as well, like, the way he plays to his strength, like, I know also I've said he needs to make runs, because one good thing he does, if someone plays him into space, he's strong, he's quick, it'll get someone off and he'll be through. And, I'm not going to say 9 times out of 10, but 7 times out of 10 he'll score. When we're trying to get the ball into the box, into aerial positions, we only created one chance for him, and that was that header that he brought a good save out of the goalkeeper. Ashley Young cuts back off his left foot onto his right foot 12 times. Not one cross beat the man on the 18-yard box.
I think that's the difference, though. That's the difference of having someone like a Lukaku, right, that you're going to consistently create chances for in and around the box, and Man United not finding him. The highest pass combination to Lukaku was Matteo Darmian. That's pretty bad an indictment. But Scott, we're going to predict the 11s now. Let's move on from Lukaku, because we've spoke a lot about Lukaku.
Question, I mean, you're the stat man. I mean, how many times does he touch the ball and control it? I mean, what are the
But then in
stats?
terms of bad touches, if you look at that as an overall stat, the likes of Firmino, Salah, in the Premier League, Harry Kane have all had worse bad touches per game. The issue is indictful of United actually playing to him and not linking to him, whether that's they don't believe in his confidence, whether that's the thought behind. You take the 3 attacking midfielders, they combine with him, a handful of times, 3 or 4 times in the entire game. This is a 4-2-3-1. These guys should be playing around each other. But Mac, let's move on to the starting 11s. Are you going to play a 4-2-3-1, Mac, or are you going to go with a 4-3-3? How are you going to set up against young boys?
You know the mad thing, yeah? You know why Pogba, it doesn't look great as well? Remember when Zlatan, he'd create like 5 chances a game for Zlatan. So it's not like he doesn't have the firepower behind him to create the chances for him. You need to get into the areas, bro. And also, he shouldn't have been in the team anyway. Like, he shouldn't have, we all saw we were better with Alexis Sanchez. He shouldn't have been in the team. Anyway, to my 11, David De Gea in goal. Obviously, good to see him keep a clean sheet. About the only positive from the weekend. Shit, man.
You want to say Valencia.
I don't want
Diogo Dalot! Come on, Matt, put him in!
Luke Shaw's back, which is great news. I'd go with Diogo Dalot. I think coming up at home against Young Boys, a team, I'm saying that, we should be beating, I know. Play Diego. Didn't he play in the away game?
It was absolutely fantastic. A number of times. Yeah, brilliant.
So play him again. Like, what is the problem with playing these guys? What is the problem with playing Fred? Like, we've seen Matic isn't working for us. Like, people say Fred's not a midfielder that can play in that holding. He played there for Shakhtar.
He did.
Now, I know he's a little bit more reckless than Matic in terms of he will go, but he played that role for Shakhtar. Weren't City looking at him to replace Fernandinho or something? So, like, you can't tell me he can't do that. We bought him for that role, yet we don't play him. It's really odd. Jose, you want more money, but you spent 50 million on him, so, like, just use him.
Are you starting him, Mark? Is he in your midfield?
He is in my midfield. Dalot, sure. Lindelof's definitely looks that way, which is an interesting one now, because it may force Jose to pick another centre half alongside Smalling, and who will that be? Is it going to be Bay? Is it going to be Rojo? Is it going to be Jones? I think it's going to be Rojo. I think it's going to be Rojo, unless Lindelof's back, but I think he'll pick Rojo. Then in the midfield, I'd like to see Fred start. He will still play Matic. I think we're going to see Matic.
Matic, Fellaini, Pogba. Fellaini as a number 10, yeah?
Yeah, I'd pick Matic, Herrera, Fred and Pogba, but it's going to be Matic, Fellaini, Pogba, Lukaku, Sanchez and Marshall.
Fair enough, that is Mac's team. Of course, we are recording this before the press conference, so there could be all sorts of news that we missed out on, but that's Mac's team. Now we're going to move on to Scott's team. Scott, are you going to go with a similar negative midfield, or are you going to go with Fred, Pereira and Paul Pogba?
Look, next year, boys. Next year. De Gea, Galot, Bailey is going to come from. He'll play because I think Jose Mourinho's already said it, hasn't he? In his press conference that Bailey will start.
I don't watch conferences anymore. They depress the life out of me.
Smalling, you need a cuddle. Luke Shaw will play. I think he will play Herrera, Fred, and Pogba. I think he'll rest Matic for the big game. Up front, Alexis Sanchez, Rashford, and Lukaku.
I thought Rashford made a really good impact against Crystal Palace when he came on. Those two crunching tackles. Scott, do you think that'll be a good outlet for the front three to have a bit of pace? Something that we've lacked sometimes is that explosive pace on the break. Could that do well against young boys?
I will play Rashford the moment he's fit in every game. I think he's a must. Just that pace. I just think you play him, don't matter, like even if he's gone a bad goal scoring streak or what, just play the guy. He's so dangerous, so quick, and wonderful to watch. But yeah, definitely. I think we'll win the game quite comfortably. I just it was a difficult weekend this weekend, but things are looking up, boys.
Definitely. Let's move on to young boys now. Adam, you're a big fan of the Swiss side. What do you see from that first leg that could have caused United problems?
I'll be honest, they shouldn't be causing Manchester United problems, but they're a team, especially at Old Trafford. If they were going to cause us problems, it would have been in Switzerland. They're a team though that are used to winning. They win every single week. They're like 15 points clear of this league already, and it's 14 games gone. They might as well be Celtic, one man once said. But we need to beat them. We're at home. If we don't beat them, forget it. Just forget it.
Forget it. Absolutely forget it. One player that I quite liked was their right back.
About young boys, I'll be honest. Obviously, I
you just don't think about young boys. They're a good team, though. They're the top of the Swiss league, Adam. You've got to think about them.
Every now and then because they always win, but that's it.
But Mbabu, the right back, I thought he was quite good. Added a bit of energy down that right hand side. Did well getting forward. Scott, did he impress you? Is there other guys in the team that you sort of fear?
I will just have to yield to your knowledge on young boys. I know absolutely fuck all.
They had a lot of pace though, innit? On the break, they
were fast.
There were a lot of pace on the break, and that can always cause us problems at Old Trafford. When you're looking at United playing against a team that are likely to be compact, likely to sit back, likely to try and soak up all the pressure. We saw Crystal Palace. They used their pace on the break, Andros Townsend, Wilfried Zaha, and they caused us problems at times. And you'd see us attacking, and then we'd be 3 against 3 at the back. And we're fortunate not to concede against Crystal Palace. Now, young boys obviously don't have the quality of Crystal Palace, which is a bit mad considering they're a Champions League side. But nevertheless, they can cause us problems. So we can't take it for granted we're going to win this game. We've won 3 out of 9 Premier League home games this season. So that already shows you our home form isn't great. So it's a dangerous game. And if we don't win it, it's a worry.
That's the big problem.
Juventus are likely to take points off Valencia. We're going to be through possibly, but if we don't, then we have to go to Valencia and do something. And if we're not going to beat young boys, we're not going to beat Valencia away.
No, 100%. I agree with that. That is the big danger. Aouar up front as well, the big target man. I think if someone like Victor Lindelof was playing, I'd worry a bit more against a physical striker. But if Bailly and Chris Smalling are going to be there, quite comfortable with that situation. But it's a massive must-win for Manchester United in the Champions League. Let's finish things off with a bit of score predictions. Let's go to Scott first before we hear Adam's 5-0 victory at home.
6-0.
6-0. I like that. Adam, you going to beat that?
1-0 United.
1-0 United. I'm going to go 7-0 United because I am a positive type of guy. Make sure, of course, to check out Full-Time Devils in and around the game. We've got the starting 11 stuff. We've got, of course, all the great fan cams, and you'll be able to hear Adam McKola celebrating a 7-0 victory. I've been Statman Dave. Make sure, of course, to subscribe if you're new to Full-Time Devils and like that goddamn video. See you guys later.